Hey everyone, welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we continue our Harry Potter month, a little late because it's a busy time of year. But no matter. Kellie takes the helm as we go into the Chamber of Secrets and we watch one of my lesser Harry Potter movies. But anyway, thanks for contributing, thanks for sharing, thanks for enjoying, thanks for subscribing, thanks for being our patrons. We love the fact that some of you have signed up as kind of a holiday situation, and it means a lot that you guys share us and review us and enjoy us. Thanks a lot. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Letterboxd, and review us. You're the best. Thanks.
Welcome to Myopia Defend Your Childhood. I'm Kellie, back to host your next Harry Potter, and we also have...
Hello, this is Daniel, and I've still not been given a sock yet.
I'm Tegan.
And I'm Nick, and we spell chamber E-R in this fucking country.
So we're with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I kind of just want to go around the horn. We're going to do our very quick 10 minutes. What was different in the books?
Mm-hmm.
Tegan, you want to start off?
A lot. I'm a huge fan of the books, and honestly, these first two movies were meh to me. They weren't bad, but I prefer the books.
I know in terms of what's different, in terms of specific scenes, if I recall correctly, the scene where Dobby's given a sock at the end is different in the book. Like it's an accident. Harry doesn't set it up.
Oh, no, Harry sets it up for sure. 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
well.
It does play out a little differently.
It plays out differently,
yeah.
but the overall is the same.
Yeah.
One of the big things that I noticed right like at the very beginning is kind of the way Harry escapes with the Weasleys.
Right.
It was slightly different in the books, so that was one of the big things that I noticed right off. I actually tried not to make as many notes about it this time. So.
I will also say just here, the book feels more like it's from Harry's perspective. It's much softer. The movie feels more like he's a little kid in a bigger world, which is just a tonal thing. But like the adults seem much more intimidating in the movie than in the book. And especially Dad Malfoy, who comes off almost like a murderer.
Almost.
He's pretty creepy.
He tries to kill him in the book, doesn't he? He tries to do the death curse.
Not yet. We're not there yet.
Not in the book.
But in this, like, we'll get to the end here, but like the dad in this movie comes off like an aggressive, like PTA dad pretty solidly. Like it's good.
Yeah, in the books he's just kind of a rich prick.
Yeah.
And Harry seems like he's almost in charge of the situation, which he could not possibly be.
Yeah. And two, this is like setting up Lucius Malfoy as well in this in this book, in this movie, because he does a lot of things that kind of put the kids in mortal danger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also really kind of hated in this, like just compared to the books, that McGonagall is the one that explained to them about the chamber. I hate that we don't get any information about the history of magic ever in these. And I understand, A, it's a boring class. B, it's not an important plot point in the books. It doesn't really matter, but it's just kind of like... it just...
Although you bring up an interesting point because... Obviously, she is influenced by a lot of things, but she's trying to make something original, so I'm not going to put it against her. But, like, there are things that exist in this world, like something that comes to mind is The Watchmen, where there's, like, other comic books people read. I would love it if Harry is interested enough in the history of magic that he's reading a book the whole time. And every so often, we get a passage from the history of magic, so there's background other than just, I'm a woman, so I have exposition for 10 minutes. Because for some reason, it's only women who give exposition in these books.
Well, we're the smartest.
Even in the Watchmen
movie. But you're
movie,
also interesting, and you don't just say, I have a paragraph to read.
Well, and there's very few prominent female characters in this story, one of which is Hermione, who's kind of a know-it-all.
And unconscious for a third of this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, well.
We should go and tell the plot so everyone understands what's actually going on.
And Daniel has something to do.
Yes. Well,
actually, Tegan, would you like to give the plot so it's not Daniel every time?
That's what I do, Nick. I drink and I know
turns.
things. Yeah, go for it, Tegan.
Turns.
Go for it.
So this one, after the first book movie, you kind of get a feel of the world and the school and the characters and everything. So this is a little bit more in depth of where we're at. The basic plot of this movie is it's Harry Potter's second year at Hogwarts. So, you know, he's making his way around. He gets in trouble more. I think. I don't know what I'm talking
He
about.
gets locked up by the Dursleys at one point, so he doesn't have to go back to Hogwarts.
It starts with the Weasleys rescuing Harry from the Dursleys.
In that flying car.
Yes.
Because
it happens over the summer that like Harry's feeling really down because he hasn't heard from Hermione or Hagrid or Ron or anybody from the school. He's basically just been cut off, and he's feeling pretty shitty about that.
Fucking Dursleys.
But then you find out as it comes closer to the beginning of the school's term that there's this house elf, which anyone who knows the stories know that house elves are actually pretty powerful in the magic world, and he's been stopping Harry Potter's letters.
We need to get into this eventually.
This is the Jar Jar Binks of Harry Potter.
Daniel, you're not giving the synopsis. Go ahead, Tegan.
So this kind of starts off the whole plot line for this entire movie / book is that Dobby is kind of trying to stop Harry Potter from going to Hogwarts.
Eventually he gets there where we find out what the Chamber of Secrets is.
Yeah, we find out why Dobby's trying to stop him from going.
It apparently it's the secret chamber in Hogwarts that Salazar Slytherin created back during the founding of the school.
Dude, and how much better is that than the Sorting Hat? Like, it's like stripping you naked. So in America, back in the day, there was something called the Oneida Community, which was a sex cult. And I bring it up because one of their members killed a president. James Garfield was killed by Charles Guiteau. And it was a sex cult. He didn't get laid, so he blamed the women, like you do, like an incel. And so what you would do is be stripped naked, and they would hurl insults at you. That's the Chamber of Secrets. You're just guilty. Like, you're sitting there naked, and you're crying on the floor. And it's like, you get to be a Hufflepuff.
This sounds like the best weekend night that I would have had in a long while, being naked and having people hurl insults at me. Go
Hey,
on.
Shrinky Dink.
So the Weasleys rescue Harry. Harry finally gets to see Ron's house, and I'm going to let Tegan take it back over from
And it's amazing. And I love this when he goes to their house because Harry's never really been to a wizard's house. So he goes in and everything is magical and all the pictures are moving and the dishes are washing themselves.
And the clock.
And the clock tells where everybody is. Like, it's not a standard 1 to 12 clock. It's like has all these different things like you're late or, they got home or in mortal peril or things like that. So
And the song The Sorcerer's Apprentice is playing as the mop is going.
Yes.
And
yeah,
Mickey Mouse is in the background.
self-sweeping mop.
They cut they cut the garden gnome scene out of the movie that was in the book, right?
They did.
They did. And I think that that's probably because you're swinging a little living thing around by its hair and flipping it over the fence. And like, kids are probably going to cry.
Well, and it's not really pertinent to the
Well,
story.
as it yells at you to let go.
Well,
I mean,
it
we've
also
been there.
screams profanities or whatever. So, like, we can, I'm short. I'll be your garden gnome for you. How's that? I can scream profanities at you.
I know you can because you have.
We should start at the beginning here. The Dursleys again are being assholes because they have one note, and that's how they are in all these movies. Eventually, they develop eventually. Eventually,
Two of them do.
two of them do. And again, I sympathize with the idea. It's just never developed. I wouldn't want my niece to be involved or my nephew to be involved in something that killed her parents. But
I think she just kind of goes about it the wrong way.
But I mean, again, like, it's not explained, and it just comes across as like Dickensian. And then Ron and his brothers, because we will eventually grow to love these brothers, but I love that they're just pricks. I love that they're just rabble rousers that we don't
they're
get
tricksters.
You know what I really
They're-
hate about that, though? That scene is another big thing that in the book is different in the books is that when the Weasleys rescue Harry, the twins pick all the locks and get his stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And they talk about how they feel like it's important to know these Muggle tricks.
They
is what call them.
non-magically pick the
Yes.
lock.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just use a pin, a hairpin, a straight pin.
Which is to J.K. Rowling's credit, matters because we meet the dad in this movie, and the dad is someone who's the quote-unquote expert in Muggles like technology.
Yeah, he loves
Yeah.
Muggles.
Yeah.
And so that's why they know like what is like a bad like stereotypical woman's sidekick thing that she can pick a lock with a hairpin. But that's great. That's a thing. Like,
And they talk about it in the book. They say most people think that this is ridiculous, but we think it's important to know these Muggle tricks.
J.K. Rowling at one point say that a guy with a high-powered sniper rifle could kill Voldemort, like a Muggle
yes,
would?
he did.
Oh, I don't know. Did she?
I'm pretty sure.
But I will say, At the end of all the books, Harry becomes an onager. Is that the name of it? Someone who's like a tech spy.
An Auror.
Or,
Yeah.
sorry. What he should be is replace Ron's dad because he knows Muggle technology.
Yeah, but that's not a very high-held position.
Who gives
Yeah.
a shit? If he was that good as he is, that should make a difference because by the time.
But don't you think that the Ministry would already have someone that was Muggle-born in that position?
I don't know.
Because
they have
both
Ron's
people-
dad in that position.
both
who's
people
like,
in that department are-
transmissions of magic, and you're just.
Well, do we know where they came from?
But that's not really what his position is. So his position is to protect Muggles from magical artifacts.
I think it would be interesting, man. Just if he was like a magical version of M or something at the end of this, or Hermione, who's also Muggle-born and smart.
Well, she does go into magical law enforcement, which would cover a division of what Mr. Weasley does.
Like, that's more. Well, I mean, we're talking about 9,000 movies from now, but
Yeah.
like it's such an interesting idea because of course they would be interested in Muggle technology in the same way that Muggles would be interested in magic. And by the way, we talked last time about the janitor guy who's maybe magic or not. I would love a magic fanboy who's not magic. I think that would be fascinating. Someone who's like a Fox Mulder who's fascinated by this stuff, who's looking for them. Like a next door neighbor to the Dursleys who's convinced what's happening with Harry Potter is magic. That would be an interesting character type, and he just happens to see the car fly away. Otherwise, we just get Snape who's like, 7 Muggles saw you! And then he shits himself, and you're just like, who could possibly
Well,
care?
you know what would happen if the neighbor saw that? He's like, a flying DeLorean? I haven't seen one of those in 30 years.
Why wasn't it Chris Lloyd? Chris Lloyd could be just say Great Scott,
So
drop
good.
the mic, and that's a better movie! That's an all-timer, man!
That's not
But-
a bad movie.
No, but that would be an all-time moment. We would still be talking about the Great Scott scene, right?
Well,
Okay, so he steals the car, they miss the train.
They
Well,
steal the car. Well,
they
but
don't miss the train. Dobby prevents them from getting on it by sealing
Right.
up the
Yes.
wall.
He
I will say
steals.
which is still dumb because
Yeah.
Mrs. Weasley sends all the kids through first in the first movie. Why would they not send all the kids through first to make sure nothing happened and they weren't late? Like, I feel like that is
Plot.
just a bad parenting move right there.
Well, again,
And then...
And you're talking to the person that didn't wash our kid's feet last night and just put socks on them so it didn't get the bed dirty.
No,
like,
but question two...
I know that.
Question 2 is not that. Because it's... Oh, I had the same question, though, because it's the first time the sister who will end up marrying Harry Potter is there.
Ugh,
dumb.
I hate that.
Well, there's one girl, and so they walk her through, which is fine. But you know what they should have done? They've been, where'd Ron go? No one asked. If you were a mom and you walk through an automatic door and then your son disappears, you know what you'd ask? Where did my son go? But they don't care until a week later when the car comes back.
Well, the car doesn't come back. They just send a howler.
Right.
Oh.
So, like, you
Right.
never see their panic or anything. You get it more in the books because I think the howler's a little bit longer in the books. But, like, the other thing is you miss that, yeah, Mr. Weasley's facing an inquiry at work or whatever, but, like, he's going to be fine because he wrote the law a certain way. But you
Right.
don't get that, like, technically what he was doing was legal because he never intended to fly the car. He
Well-
just wanted to see if he could do these things.
But I mean, again, the scene should be a panic parent. Like, no one acts
Yeah.
like they should act. Like,
Right.
I mean, again, you're going to school. There should be a teacher who wonders where the hell they are. Instead, it's just someone who's like, "You're not where you're supposed to be," and that's kind of the game.
We
Once
are
again,
in trouble.
this is the same problem that the first movie had. It is such a strict literal adaptation. I mean, we've mentioned a couple differences, but tonally, once again, it's an audible reading.
I will disagree with you for one reason. The books are from the kid's perspective. If you made this more feeling like it was the kids telling the story, it'd be better. But here, it just feel like there's a neutral narrator. And you know what a kid never thinks they're going to be? A kid's not doing something thinking they're going to be in trouble.
But is your first thought as a kid, and I don't know, like, I don't remember being 11 or 12, but, like, is
Please, they're
your first thought to be, oh, I should steal my parents' car and fly it to school?
No. Your first thought would be, I need to get to school. I don't get the urgency here. I get Ron just going...
Exactly.
Yeah, like, he's worried about his parents.
Nick,
And no one really thinks they're like, okay, well, what if
But-
they can't get back? We
Nick,
should
you
take
are
the car.
you are 100% right, Nick, about the urgency. There's no urgency in any of this. The car scene should have been exciting, both when they rescue Harry and when they're flying to Hogwarts. And it's just, oh well, this is what happened in the book at that point. So
No,
all
like,
right.
the car flipping over didn't happen in the book, and I felt it on a very deep, personal, attacked level when Ron's like, hold on, and Harry's like, I'm trying, your hands are too sweaty, and I'm like, I feel attacked.
Gross.
Back off us gingers, we got sweaty hands.
Well, I was going to say, like, the thing for me is the first movie, I gave Chris Columbus credit because I think he directs good Christmassy movies. This movie is not a Christmas movie. This is more like a back-to-school movie. Yeah. This scene should have been directed like a high school nightmare. I'm 35. I still have dreams like I don't pass high school.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Or you're late to class and you wake up like, ah!
Right,
Or-
or the naked dream where you have like, you know what I mean? Like
Have you
it's.
ever had a naked...
I'm a boy, so I have like the weird teenage erection dream, but it's the same kind of idea. But that's what this should be.
Nick, that wasn't a dream.
I mean, we've all been there. Man spread. The thing about it is, that's what this is.
Meanwhile,
They're late
Kellie
for class.
chokes.
They're late for their exams, effectively, right? Like, what you should have is that weird, like, Home Alone 2 where they're running through the airport. Dun, 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 dun. Like, they should be panicked trying to... We don't get that. You just have Ron going...
Well,
and, it's
and
suddenly
here's the
night
thing,
and that's the end.
like what are they gonna do? Because the platform's closed, and they're making a huge scene because of Harry's birds and all their trunks and all that crap. So they're like embarrassed, and he's worried about his parents who went after their daughter, it's their first year. And they're just like, why can't we get on the platform? Like, what is wrong with this thing, you know?
And I'm sorry. If you're in middle school, it's not your fault if you're late to school. And the guy's an asshole. He's 12. It's not like he can drive. Well, he drives himself, so I'm wrong. But, like, that's
Not legally.
That's how this game
Well,
works.
that's the thing. They can't possibly be the only ones that have missed the train ever.
Ever.
Right.
There was that one.
It
kid
seems
who's
like
now
that's
a
my thing. Is
janitor.
like it seems like there would be a backup for that.
Well, that's the weird thing too.
Like,
There's a paddle. They're pumping themselves down the track.
Hey,
no.
Harry, what's the thing that's not exactly water but not exactly earth?
And by the by, we're introduced to how they get to the train station with magic sand, which is a cool effect. But why isn't there more magic sand to get them to Hogwarts?
Well, that's not how they got to the train station. That's how they got
Right.
to.
That's how they got to Diagon Alley.
Right.
There's no rules explained in the movie. Now, in the book,
Well,
it's
they
what-
obviously took the car.
Well, in the
But I'm saying, like, if you have the sand, just go Hogwarts.
Flu powder.
yes. Well,
There are rules to getting in and out of Hogwarts with flu powder, though.
Yeah.
And
One,
or
we don't
with
talk about
apparition.
flu powder.
here's the weird thing though about all that. We talk about rules. We talk about how to get there. You can get there by the Hogwarts Express, which okay. But now this movie explicitly says you can drive there. It
that
explicitly says
I take
you
that
can
back.
take a car there.
I take that back because
Which
you
I
can
find
get into
odd.
Hogwarts with flu powder
Because we see it in
because
the
Sirius
fifth
Black
movie,
does it.
sixth movie.
So,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, so you can do that. I don't know. And maybe that's what it. And I know that
By the way,
Yes.
this is, again, you're not thinking like teenagers. If you're a teenager and you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend, what do? You have flu powder so you can make out at make-out point because you're just like, blank
you have
house.
to go to you got to go to a chimney for the
Now-
flu
now-
powder.
You know
to
what?
work.
My
So,
parents
like,
aren't checking when it's the middle of the night.
chimneys.
Girl.
But you can set alarms on them because Umbridge does. So I bet if it were me, I would have an alarm on my
Yeah,
chimney.
but you know what? Your parents always know what you're doing when you're sneaking out.
So-
But that's how the game is played. The kids have them. By the way, George and his twin, they have it because they opened a trick shop.
You mean Fred?
Yeah,
Fred and George.
Fred and
Okay,
George.
fine, whatever. But they are sneaking off all the time, and they're going to the Hufflepuffs because the Hufflepuffs got the good weed, and
they're next to the kitchens. And
Dude.
the Weasleys are in the kitchens all the time.
Dude, and they make the cupcakes with the different houses. And you know what? If you're a Gryffindor, sometimes you eat a Ravenclaw cupcake because it's saucy, and then you're getting stoned off your ass. and it's fine.
That's more-
And it's fine.
and it's
That's
You know
more
what?
of an accurate.
Fred's the best.
That's more of an accurate representation of middle school. Ravenclaw lady, I'd like to give you a cupcake because
girl.
So then we get back,
and I'll tell you what, the
they're
slug's
not
coming into your mouth,
expelled.
not out of your mouth.
Yeah, there you go.
Girl. And
So Snape can't expel them, and so then they're not actually expelled
she's
at
looking
all.
at her notes, guys.
Oh yeah, she's got notes. Kelly's a
She's shutting
professional.
me down.
yeah.
Animal House at Hogwarts, better movie.
So, but when they get to Hogwarts, the flying car lands in the Whomping Willow, which is the first time we meet this tree that's been on Hogwarts longer than you've been alive, quote unquote.
Which I thought was a ridiculous quote, by the way.
Yeah.
But it was pointless. But I do love Ron's reactions to this tree because I think his face, is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of these effects were actually done. But then once they're down, the car is like, nope, get the fuck out.
I'm out. Yeah.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is done with their shit. That's the scene.
I was gonna say we've all
Launches
driven
off
Fords
and is
before.
like, bye bitches, and takes off right into the woods. And I'm just like, car,
Yep.
I would have done the same thing, my friend.
It's driving off into the foreshadowing realm.
It's why Kelly's currently standing up and walking away from the table.
Like the
what?
Hulk.
Bye bitches.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, they're in trouble all the time. This is the movie where kids are in trouble constantly.
But they actually get in trouble this time,
Yes.
which I appreciated.
Well-
I mean, like their detention, the first movie, which we didn't even discuss, sucked. But I think with this one, like, and they don't really talk about Ron's punishment at all, which is unfortunate. But Harry's is to sign autographs with
Gilderoy
Lockhart.
Gilderoy Lockhart.
Have we haven't introduced him yet.
We have not introduced
Yes.
Gilderoy
So-
Lockhart.
Oh
He
my
needs
God.
an introduction.
If I may, I'm a U.S. history teacher. I'm teaching AP US. I describe John Smith as Gilderoy Lockhart in class because what does he do? He steals other people's stories to sound more impressive. And he's played by Kenneth Branagh, a Shakespearean actor
Also,
who must be constipated from all the scenery he's chewing.
Also, previous episode, Dr. Lovelace in Wild Wild West.
Our 200th, in fact. And in this movie, he plays...
He's playing
Gordon
himself.
Ramsay. I mean, yes, he is playing himself, but he is the guy who has vanquished every conceivable foe, and he is signing books. We're introduced to him on Diagon Alley when the people are buying textbooks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he's
And
already
all of his books are on the required reading list
Yeah.
for the
Including
students.
his biography, Magical
Because
Bee.
Yes.
as all of us are college graduates, nothing is worse than when a professor assigns their own book for class, because that means the rod is so far up their own asses
Yep.
that they can suck it.
I mean, the rod's so far up Lockhart's ass, it's coming out of his mouth. But
And this
I
is from
hate
someone...
And
that they
he's
didn't do
happy
his
about
like
it.
opening quiz either. So in the book, he does a quiz, and Hermione gets all of the answers right.
It's
and his
all
favorite
questions
color is
about him.
lavender, and it's like all questions about
Yep.
him, not about what he's done, but
Nope.
about like his favorite stuff.
Yep. When's
Yeah.
his
He's never been
birthday?
more
What's
erect
his
in his
favorite
life.
color?
Oh yeah, he's surrounded by like heartthrob girls, and it just it's ridiculous.
And even what's the mom? The Weasley's
Molly.
Mom. Molly is just, oh my god, she is.
Oh, did you see her? She twirls her hair in the
Oh.
book
Oh, yeah.
store, and I was like, what a nice touch. Like,
Oh, again,
She
an
goes like
actress who
this.
knows what she's doing.
oh god, we're gonna get to the last movie, and I'm just gonna be like, Molly fucking Weasley, guys.
Molly's
And I
amazing.
mean, and
God.
this is speaking as someone who at one
amazing.
point almost assigned one of his own reading. You don't do that. I've written published material. You don't do
So
that.
that is our introduction to Gilderoy Lockhart, though, is in the
Dude.
bookstore in Diagon Alley.
yeah.
When
And
all
it
he
is
cares about is
perfect.
the reporter.
And everyone is like in awe of him. They're all in line to get his signature. And he's like, oh, I'm amazing. And then he sees Harry Potter and he's like, we'll make the front
Hard as a-
page
We'll make the
if
front
we
page."
get the picture together. Like, that's his immediate thought when he
Yeah.
sees Harry Potter.
Daily Prophet, is that the name of the
Yes.
magazine?
That's the name of the
Daily
newspaper,
Prophet.
yes.
Dude, and again, it's a weird like you, and you're just
Yes.
like, all right,
Like
baby,
you just
Yeah.
see it in
calm
his
back
face,
down.
and he's like, Harry Potter, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, crazy eyes, calm down.
Now, how does he get hired at that school anyway? He's obviously a fraud.
He
No,
was the
but
only
it-
one that was up for that. He was the only one that wanted it.
And again, it's John Smith. At a certain point, people buy your own press if you're good enough at it, baby. Like
It's
that's
true.
the game. And he is
I
supposed
mean, people
to,
still think I'm smart.
Well, and I'm sure at this point people suspect that
just-
he's a fraud.
It's all show.
it's when you look in the eyes, right?
Yeah,
Kelly?
crazy eyes.
Yeah.
Just have enough of the crazy eyes. People just either don't want to ask or trust you.
Yeah.
I just want to say right here for the record, Lupin was the best dark arts teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
Well, and twosies. In my mind, Lockhart wins the movie because we'll get through the whole thing. No, you shut your mouth. I will say the plot of this movie is the same as the first one. The difference is Lockhart. I mean,
Yeah.
Lockhart and Dobby leaves the movie for 90% of it.
Right.
He is Puck. He causes chaos, but Lockhart is the one who's prancing around, and he's just like, I meant to do that. And
Yeah, if only I'd been there. If only
Yeah.
I'd been there.
How he shrinks Harry's bones out of his arm.
Oh, yeah. That was terrible.
So bad.
Oh.
And it's great.
The sound effects for the arm, though, are just like...
No.
And I mean, it's either...
I'm just grateful this wasn't a Deadpool movie, because then there would have been a masturbation joke right there.
Well,
Yeah.
with Nichelle Nichols. But, I mean...
He did say you're more flexible. I felt like that was close enough.
We've all been
Yeah.
there.
So, I mean,
if I were more flexible when I 12... Let's change the subject.
So anyway, so then when we're in the bookstore, right? This is when we meet Lucius Malfoy for the first time, which we
Yes.
briefly talked about. But it's also when he drops the diary in Ginny's cauldron before they've bought her books.
Now, we should mention the diary. This is a diary that apparently Voldemort wrote.
No. We can start here with Tom Riddle at first.
Tom Marvolo Riddle, and the full name is important.
It's true.
Because it's an acrostic for nonsense.
So,
But, I mean, so Tommy
one
R.
of them anagrams is what it is.
So Tommy R is an interesting character because if you are a teenage girl, he's the older dude. And again, I think J.K. Rowling's is playing off herself as 12, right?
well, and I don't think Ginny sees Tom. So he only writes back to her in
Right.
the diary.
Yeah.
So he doesn't
This-
actually show himself to Ginny. But my concern
But
is, how do you buy a cauldron full of books and not realize that there's a diary in it? And then
Magic.
the guy ringing them out is like, yeah, that's not mine. It's
Well,
$15.99.
I don't remember specifically how that movie plays out in the book, but in the
He
movie,
tucks it into a book.
well,
in
I know that, but in the
book.
movie, they're like walking out of the store.
You know,
Also, tragically, I
So-
could just say a wizard did it. It forgives everything.
you know who Tom Riddle is? He's 1985 Morrissey, imagining himself as 2018 Morrissey.
What?
Also,
Yeah, I don't get that.
but I will say too,
Whoa! What do you mean? What, you don't know about Morrissey?
Morrissey, she does not.
Apparently not. Is it really
The
that
Cure.
important?
No, the Smiths.
Smiths,
The
excuse me.
Smiths.
Okay.
What I will say too is
He was a singer that was real popular in England in the 1980s, and his band broke up, but he still got a solo career. But he is a massive,
Asshole.
massive dickhead,
Right-winger.
just to everyone in question.
For me, it just seems like, well, we just did Twilight a few months ago. It's like falling in love with Edward Cullen. No. It's because she's a young girl reading a book about a guy who's older and more mature.
And listens. That was her big
Yeah,
right?
that was the
And
big
he
thing.
listens.
Well, and
And
she,
he's introspective and he's
Yes.
handsome.
well, and
He's
he
there
doesn't.
for
He
her,
doesn't
and he
have
has
any
to-
like value to her. He's just her friend. He's like a pen pal.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
He's
that
there for her.
listens to her and consoles her, and
Well, and you're
yeah.
an 11 or 12. No, it's Ginny.
Ginny, she's 11,
So she's like
yeah.
11 years old, and there's like a 17-year-old guy who's interested in you, right? That's what it's supposed to be. It's a vaguely.
Oh God, it's like
It's-
that. It's like that South Park episode with Shelley's older boyfriend who's in a band.
But it's not sexual. But
It's
she
not
feels
sexual.
like
It's-
she's interested in him, and he's interested in her.
Yeah.
And
Right.
That's all. But again, that's
They
what
establish
middle
this
school girls
trust.
Right.
feel like.
How would you know?
I've been teaching them for decades.
Well, and
Like,
also
honestly.
she can talk to Tom Riddle about Harry Potter,
Now
Yes.
here's,
Right.
and he loves
Listen,
it.
and because he wants to know about Harry.
Yep.
But she doesn't realize that. She's
No.
just someone
Yeah.
who wants to talk to an older person who feels her feelings.
Yep.
Which they should explore more in this movie
Yeah.
because okay, and we can't rewrite this, but this should be her movie instead of Harry's movie for at least half of it.
I thought-
because that would be more interesting.
I thought they were trying to
Yeah.
do something really clever right during the
Then
scene.
you're wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I
Okay,
am.
finish your sentence, though.
In the Weasley's house, where Harry shows up and says hi, Ginny, and she like acts all panicked and then runs
The
away.
funniest
Yeah.
scene.
It's
Yes.
a great scene. What
I
I,
have a
thought that was
story.
implying.
And this happens throughout the whole beginning of the book. She
What I-
like shrieks
She
and
won't-
runaways.
What
She
I
gets so shy.
thought
Yeah.
it was implying was she already had the diary and was already under Voldemort's control. So this was about
No.
Voldemort running away and not her.
Yeah, no, it's just she apparently talked. She met Harry Potter once, and he's the famous Harry Potter and her brother's best friends, and so she talked about him nonstop until he got to the house, and then she like clammed up because you're like, oh my god, like my celebrity crush is here. Like, what do I do? Oh my god, he's so cool.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Like, what?
Yeah.
So that's why.
So my story about this, I had a friend back in high school named Richard, and he had a sister named Meredith. And one of the first times I spent the night at their house when I was in high school, Meredith had been at a volleyball practice. And, you know, she looked like a person at a volleyball practice wearing a sports bra and everything. And I bring that up for reasons in a second. But we were hanging out, and she was very embarrassed to see me there because the Jenny Weasley thing.
Oh.
Aww.
And we noted she comes back downstairs after showering and changing from her practice, and she's significantly more curvier, more endowed. And
She put her good bra on for you.
better than that, we had dinner, we get pizza, and there was a paper towel roll in the kitchen, and her mom goes, "Where'd all the paper towels go?
Oh no.
Where did all?" And I'm like, and she goes, "Meredith, have you seen all the paper towels?" As an aside, I told this part of the story. This was the first time I saw Wild Wild West. It was very awkward because she was very actively trying to make a move because she was sitting next to me on the couch, and it was just like,
I'm
like
still.
getting close. But I just to the day I die, I will never forget Mrs. Snell going, "Where'd all the paper towels go?"
Well,
You're
I
Jenny
feel
Weasley.
like I'm on the edge of my seat here. Where did all the paper towels go?
In
Let's
her
just-
bra.
Let's just
No.
let's just say Victoria's Secret isn't so irregularly shaped. And again, and again,
She wasn't doing it right.
As an aside to her, I apparently didn't do it for her because now she's out and out married to another woman. So,
Oh.
So wait, you're the-
You
despite my
ruined-
raw sexuality, it turns
You
out it didn't work
Just
out.
didn't
You
have what it
ruined
took.
men for her.
So you were.
Ruined men.
So after you, no man would ever do.
No man would. And after Kenneth Branagh in Wild Wild West, apparently she was just ruined on both spiders and men. But
Well-
again, it was just all of that to say that Jenny Weasley looking at Harry and being like, because she's in a robe. I think the first time we said like as though she's just come out of.
Yeah, she's got
woken up.
pajamas on with a robe, and
Yeah,
she's
and she's
looking
just
for her
like-
dress, and so she comes down. She goes, "Mom, where's my jumper?" And like, so she's talking about her
Yeah.
own clothes and like.
It's just like, again, imagine you have your brother's friend that you're mildly attracted to because girls develop before boys, and he's like, Harry Potter also could not have cared less about that. It didn't even register
Yeah, it
to
didn't even
him.
register. He was like, what? And in the books, too, it didn't register. He was both just kind of like, what the hell
Because
just happened?
that
And
is
it-
what 12-year-old boys are about. You know what the next scene
hi.
should have been if they were
Hi,
honestly
Jenny.
12-year-old boys? Him and Ron wrestling for no reason.
In the book, it's them going up to Ron's room and talking about Quidditch.
But that's the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where did all the paper towels go? The next time John asks you, do we have paper towels, you're going to giggle and he's not going to know what. Because he doesn't listen to me.
So we have 2 rolls on the kitchen counter right now. One of them's almost out. I feel like when I get home tonight, I just need to like shove the rest of one of the rolls in there and see if he notices.
Well, this
Yes.
tur-
Christ crackers,
this
that's good.
this took a turn that I was not expecting.
Better movie.
I'm totally gonna do this if you guys know.
Well,
I'll
speaking
let
of-
you know what the reaction
Well,
Do you think they call when they're being intimate, hey, can I put it in your cauldron?
Have
Oh.
you seen
What
all
would
of the
the-
different ways that sentences in Harry Potter have been pulled out to be like
I'm pretty sure that's a lyric to
really
the Harry.
sexual?
I'm pretty sure that's a lyric to the Harry Potter version of WAP.
There's a
My wet ass cauldron.
Yeah.
there are a couple of like
Whack.
listicles about all the dirty lines in Harry Potter if you just pull them out with no pull them out with no context, and
I see what you did
one
there.
of them is
I can pull it out with no context too, ladies.
One of them is from book 5, and it's the only one that I remember in the moment, but it's Molly Weasley, and she's talking to the twins, and she goes, just because you can pull your wands out doesn't mean you have to. And it's
Someone's had boys before, right?
Well, speaking of tortured sexuality, what do we think of Moaning Myrtle?
she was 30 when she made this movie, and
That-
she sounds
yes.
like that, and it's just... I
Well-
didn't know that. I really thought that was an affectation of her voice until I saw her in Doctor Who, and I looked at Jonathan, he goes, do you not know that was her voice? And I was like, oh my god, no!
She
It's
was
a
actually
woman.
in this great movie called Stan and Ollie. It's about Laurel and
Yes.
Hardy's final tour in the UK before they officially
John C.
retired.
Reilly.
Yeah, John C. Reilly
great.
is Hardy, and what's his name? Steve Coogan is
Coogan,
Laurel. She plays Hardy's wife, and it's not like stunt casting. She's a lot closer to John C. Reilly's age than you'd expect. And the entire time I'm looking at her, I'm like, this is not a high schooler.
No.
Also, we've all died on the toilet a little bit. That's
people
pretty
age.
great.
I'm not trying to like fault her for being older than the rest of the cast. It's just like, it's weird.
No.
Well, it's extra weird later.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
But this is super like the Marleys were dead to begin with. Like, she's got like a spooky voice. She's practically a Scooby-Doo character.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Like, she's definitely comic relief for someone that's, like, obviously always depressed. That kind of sucks. But, like, she's the comic relief.
But if you were a teenage girl who's having a hard time, you want a sympathetic ear. And that's the thing, I think, the problem is, and again, it's an editorial problem. The movie needs to be tighter because her scenes matter more if you give her more credit.
Yeah.
If you are Hermione having a hard time or whatever, give her someone to talk to. We don't have to speed through that.
Well, spoiler alert, she's the one who reveals where the chamber is, but it's out of nowhere in the context of the movie.
Because it is on Cliff's Note version by that point.
Exactly. And it's the same thing that Nick was saying. It's like this movie is very... The first and second movies are very similar in the way that they work, in that the reveal... And it's the same way in the book, but the reveal is this like weird, oh my God, but what if?
Yeah.
And that's it.
The problem with it for me is not the movie's pacing or anything. It's just, if you want to make it this speed, it either needs to be the same speed throughout, or if you want to slow down and have Christmas for 20 minutes, you have to make other things 20 minutes long as well.
Yeah.
And Moaning Myrtle having a depressing scene. Yeah, you gave her the Chekhov's gun thing where you introduce her and then she comes back. But then she has to have agency of any sort, and she doesn't. And she's an interesting character where she's someone who died because she saw the MacGuffin, and the MacGuffin matters. But Hermione needs to befriend her then. We need to see the scene where she's breaking down and Hermione is talking to her. But we don't. The boys are the only ones who matter in this movie!
If I recall correctly in the book, Hermione goes into that restroom and says, oh, well, her crying just disturbs me so much I can't pee.
We've all had a loud
Yeah,
shit
that's why people
before.
don't go in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the bathroom is empty. Because
Yeah, no one ever
wants to
goes
be
in
around
there.
Moaning Myrtle.
Yeah.
She doesn't
You know what
go
that
to any
is,
other
then?
bathrooms, apparently.
I go there on chilly night because you have a bathroom that no one else is in. I'm there all the time. I teach at a school. You know what I don't use?
It's a
The
girl's
bathrooms where
bathroom.
there are children.
It's because Moaning Myrtle floods the bathroom and no one wants to be in a bathroom full of toilet water. That's
You know what you
why.
do then? You put your feet up.
But you just have to walk in, though. Like,
Or
gross. I
you
don't
pick
wanna-
up a diary out of the water.
Yeah.
Oh,
We've all
yeah,
been
that's...
there.
Yeah.
You know what I want to read? A girl whose suicide ended up in a toilet.
Ugh.
I do love the scene, though, where they pick up the diary and Ron's like, well, but it can't hurt you, right? And she's like, sure. And she, like, attacks him. And I just feel like that's such a great scene.
It's
I
so
don't know
good.
why, but I love
It is.
it.
No, yeah.
And my favorite line is also with Moaning Myrtle, and I wrote it down and put a smiley face instead of a heart this time. But she goes, they said, well, what did he look like, or who was it, or something? And she goes, I don't know. I was distraught. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, yes, I feel you, girl. I
Yes.
feel you.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
But I just feel like she's
and
great.
again, I'm sorry, J.K. Rowling's. You need to write from a teenage girl's perspective. You were a teenage girl at one point. Do it. It's more interesting, right?
Yeah,
When Hermione is a human being, it's better. When Moaning Myrtle's a human being, it's better. And again, it's not saying that Harry Potter doesn't ever have inner dialogue, but he's our protagonist. Give other characters agency of any sort.
Now,
Yeah.
there's once again another scene that demonstrates how Chris Columbus's approach to this material was wrong. It's the polyjuice potion scene, where essentially it's a potion where if you drink it and you've got somebody's hair in it, you can turn into them. It becomes
It wasn't
important-
any part of them, but yes.
We should.
It was their hair, right?
In this, it
scene.
was.
They used
but
hair,
it can be
yeah.
anything.
Right.
Because it's essentially Caribbean voodoo, right? You give
Well-
it a little hair, yeah.
Yeah.
But
That
we
is
should talk
such
about
an
it.
And they just
Awesome.
grabbed that book off of the shelf. It was in the restricted section.
It was.
Hermione
I know.
had to get permission from a teacher, so they did Gilderoy Lockhart, and she tried to keep the signature from the
But-
librarian, and I just think that's really funny.
That was funny.
No. But that's the scene we need to see because Gilderoy Lockhart would be
Didn't even
charmed
look at what he was
by
signing.
someone who is as smart as Hermione, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that
he
is
just
some-
wanted to sign
Now,
something.
he would be charmed
love.
just by somebody paying attention to him.
But that's
Yeah.
something we should see.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though, about that. Once again, this is a great idea. Potion that turns you into somebody else for, what was it, an hour?
An hour.
Okay.
It takes a month to brew, though. You got to be dedicated.
Right, but
Which
which they do in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, but in the book it was so much more exciting as they try and come up with this and as they try to brew it. In the movie, once again, it's just I never felt any sort of emotional connection
Yeah.
to it. It was just paint by numbers.
Right.
Plus, they kept
Here it is. It's in the middle of a bathroom, which it still wasn't. They still hid it in a stall.
In a stall.
right.
And they had to steal stuff from Snape.
Yeah.
better
From
movie.
Snape.
Who's barely in this one.
Right?
Yes.
Well, we'll get into who gets screwed over in this movie, actor-wise, in a second. But they also make that scene go on too long because they end with the same gag they do in the movie with Hermione turning into a member of the Cats cast.
Cat.
Well,
Poor
and,
Hermione
cat.
got the really short
So
end of the
bad.
stick
and
with this
again,
one.
like we talked about how close they should be to the books. There are questions here that you could address in any way. Things like you said, stealing ingredients, figuring shit out. They're stealing hair from Crabbe and Goyle, who we've
Yeah.
been barely introduced to, which we could get more with. Like
They're the bullies from Hocus Pocus. That's who they are.
Yeah, they're just the flunkies.
they're literally heavies. You know what Slytherin in an extremely elite private school needs? Bullies. Like, there's nothing. Can you imagine Crabbe or Goyle even showing up to class? Like, this is all like, because again, this is Animal House for kids,
Well-
which is fine, but then don't make it an elite school.
Actually, I take that back. You know who they actually are? Eric and Don Jr. I'm just going to
What?
let that ride.
I will remind you when you're editing, since you're listening to this as you edit, the election was a month ago.
Fingers crossed, but who knows what's going to happen. It might still be relevant.
I mean, we were talking about polyjuice, and
Well, the whole reason to make this is because they think Draco's the person opening the Chamber of Secrets, which has already happened. There's already that photographer kid for the student newspaper.
Colin Creevy, he's
yes.
not for the student newspaper. He's just a weirdo.
mudbloods are being frozen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Including
And they're suspecting Harry because we find out that he's a parcel mouth.
tongue. Well, once again, John Cleese gets screwed over in this goddamn movie, and after this, they abandon
He was
him.
buying a new bathroom. He was here for 36 minutes.
He had 3 lines.
It's not his fault, buddy. If
I'm
you
not
want-
saying it's his fault. I'm saying they should have actually used him because
Well,
he's
and I
John
think
Cleese.
in this movie in particular, a lot of really good characters got undercut.
Yes. I'm sure there's a director's cut somewhere where... you
Release the Cleese cut.
know-
Okay, that happened. So what bothered me too about the polyjuice scene, and this might be just really dumb, but like they just drop glasses on the fucking bathroom floor.
Yep.
The counter is literally right there. Harry drops his cup, it shatters, and then he leans on the counter. Like, could you be any more obtuse? Seriously.
So, it's your anniversary coming in a month. Who's your polyjuice potion for?
Olivia Wilde. Oh, wait, for me or for Jonathan?
That's the question. Do you make John drink it and he turns into David Tennant, or does he drink it and you become Olivia Wilde?
Well, I would become Olivia Wilde, but I'm still torn on whether or not I would want him to be David Tennant because I might still want him to be Harry Potter.
See, I think if I couldn't do it, I'd still want Candace, but I think she would have me be you. No, I'm kidding.
So I had this dream one time where I convinced Jonathan to go to a swingers party, and I couldn't go through with it. I was under the assumption that his did because whatever room he was in was locked. And so I woke up the next morning and he's in the shower, and I went in there and I was like, I can't even believe that you went through with that swingers party in my dream last night. And he was like, it was your idea. He didn't know that, but he just was like in the shower. So I was like, how did you know that? And this conversation just reminds me of that because like I feel like it would become very awkward if you polyjuice potion like a celebrity and then you bang and it's like, well, what do you do?
Well, I mean,
Why doesn't that happen more in this franchise? Aren't there going to be wizards who do that?
Party, it's a polyjuice party.
So apparently,
Yeah.
well, it's very difficult to make. So the fact that Hermione can do it at all is dumb. And also, it's incredibly painful. So I don't know if it would be worth having your complete bones break and recreate
all had
themselves
painful
to
erections.
bang to look like a celebrity.
It was really short term though.
I
It was
mean, I
extreme
haven't-
pain, but it was
Yes.
short.
yeah, but an hour, you'd do it.
Yeah, probably.
For an hour of whoever.
I like the idea that you'd be like doing like a MASH like diary, but instead it's like a polyjuice diary.
Honestly,
It's
I
like-
would want it for the selfies. Like, let's be real. Like, if I could turn myself into anybody and like take a picture of myself with that, like, not mom bod, I would totally do it.
Now,
No, but the question is, would it be like you at 22, or would it?
But I don't know, because would that count? I don't have hair from when I was 22.
But if
But
you
yeah, I would
had-
totally bang
no,
myself at 22.
but
Is that what you're asking?
I would-
Yes,
no,
I would
no,
bang
no,
myself
my
at
question
22.
would be then, if polyjuice potion exists, would you just have a brush for every year? And you have like a brush somewhere, like you're just like, this is my 22-year-old brush, a single hair.
Do you think it counts that way?
I don't know.
well,
I don't know.
here's another.
There's no rules to this game apparently because she didn't
Yeah,
think
I would
about
totally
it.
do that for Jonathan. Yes, I would do that for him.
Because otherwise you would be on a subway in New York and you're just like, oh no, I stumbled on Patrick Stewart and now John is Patrick Stewart. Hello, Kelly. Could I beam you up? And then just like, and you know what he would say when he saw you naked? Engage. And then you'd be like, how? Like, that's the game we play. And then there's other kinds of polyjuices.
I would totally.
That's
I
one
would
way to
use
make
it.
polyjuice right
I would
there.
use polyjuice.
And-
But here's the thing, though.
and
But where do you run into
pregnant.
it being an addiction, though? Because like, if you're not happy with the way you look
Dude!
and you're able to become anybody,
How
then you
great-
would walk around like.
There's a guy scratching himself on Diagon Alley who's done one too many polyjuices. That would be an interesting guy.
This is turning into a David Cronenberg movie really quickly.
Dude.
I mean, I just feel like I don't know. I feel like you walk if you just use it for fun.
So
I feel like Barty. I mean, and we'll get there, but like I just feel like you run the risk of being Barty Crouch Jr. and like, but what does that do to your brain chemistry too? Like if you're
that's interesting.
someone else, and in the book, their voices change.
Yeah.
The movie didn't do that,
And I
it's
hated
fucking
that.
stupid.
It's so stupid.
But like in the book, your voice changed and you literally become this person. So like, what if you do it and you don't tell anybody? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just and then you could murder somebody, but it's not you, it's them, and it's all of their DNA on something. And like, I might use it for that.
Who
Well, I mean-
would you kill? Please don't say me.
Do you want my whole list? Because it would take me a while to write down.
I mean, so I read an interview with.
We can start with the Republican Party.
I read an interview with Daniel Radcliffe, and he was talking about how he thought they would be rebooting it soon. I don't want them to reboot it. I'd rather they do the Star Wars thing where there's like other movies in the universe. That would be interesting, where we have a guy or woman who's addicted to changing who they are, and they keep wanting to be, or like it'd be interesting if they were in the Muggle world and they keep running for Parliament as different people, and they're trying to take over that way. Like
they've
Or
already.
what about, I mean, even for all of the people that are listening that are also on Pottermore, there is an article about kind of how the trio gets to where they are, quote unquote, now. And Ron basically goes through a complete emotional break after his brother dies. And he's not successful. He is helping run the joke shop. He's incredibly depressed and is not really a functioning member of society anymore. And I mean, that's a really interesting story, I think.
It's
so I would love to see more stories like that. But
truer.
if they reboot Harry Potter,
I don't want them to
I would
reboot
have
it.
words.
It's
I
never
think.
going to happen, I don't think.
First of all, you're wrong. Only because that's what Hollywood's doing
they
now.
do it with
and
everything.
The first movie is 20 years old next year.
What? the-
It's
why would
2001. 2021 is 20 years later.
Sir, I do not appreciate your math. I did not need your math. I do not appreciate your math.
That's why you're my favorite, Sudsy. But that's the game we're playing. Like, I would rather they do the James Bond thing where they just make a new story with different people in the world. And you know what Daniel Radcliffe
Well,
is?
they're starting to do that, though. I mean, you've got
That's what-
Fantastic Beasts,
yeah.
and there's going to be 5 of those because we don't need that, and that timeline is stupid. And
But you know
I'll
what's
bring my
terrible?
charts for that. but
Fantastic Beasts.
It's not. It's not terrible.
I loved the first movie.
I loved the first movie. The
you
second
know-
one left more questions than answers, and I have
Yes.
several problems with it.
Like questions.
And I just, it is what it is. But
You know what none of this is? A
Harry
chamber
Potter.
filled with secrets.
yes, exactly. So
Well, what happens is at one point, Harry discovers Tom Riddle's diary that Ginny tried to flush down the toilet to get away from Tom Riddle.
But
Yeah.
this is
We've all
after a
had
whole
that
lot of other
boyfriend.
stuff has happened. So we've kind of glossed over the fact that someone opens the Chamber of Secrets. And we don't know who it is, but we know that it's open because Filch finds Mrs. Norris petrified. And
And
I
the
wrote down, oh, poor evil kitty.
And the
And there's a big bloody note on the
and
wall.
there's a
right,
big
the
bloody
Jack
note
the
on the
Ripper
wall.
note on the
Right.
wall.
And
The Jews will not be the men who will not be blamed for nothing. No, that's the Jack the Ripper note.
Also, Where does the blood come from? Do we ever figure?
Yes, it's the chickens. So Hagrid briefly says that the chickens have gone missing, and it's because
They're coming to roost.
the basilisk is basically afraid of chickens' cries.
Of roosters.
Roosters
Specifically.
cries.
Do you still hear them?
And then
the cries
spiders-
of the chicken.
And
Which
the
is
spiders are afraid of the basilisk, so they flee. So we see the spiders leaving. We see Mrs. Norris petrified. But what I want to know is, like, the basilisk is bent on killing something, but it gives up if it petrifies it?
You know what this movie needed?
Well,
less alcoholism from the CGI guy, because the CGI is terrible in this
Well,
movie.
supposedly,
I still think it was
looking-
better than the first one.
I agree with you, Kelly. Overall,
Really?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like it, but it is better than the first one
I will
by
say
a lot.
there's much more of it in this movie.
Yeah.
which
It's,
Yeah.
And it is better. I mean, when you look at Dobby compared to the troll, it's much better. When you look at the Sorting Hat, it's literally the same. Like, someone just didn't really try.
But I mean, maybe my problem is not the quality; it's the quantity. Because the car is CGI, the spiders are CGI, the blood is CGI.
The basilisk,
Basilisk.
is
The
CGI.
basilisk is
Pretty much
just-
the entire chamber.
I'm pretty sure I fought the same basilisk in Wolfenstein in 1993. Like, it's,
Oh, there you go.
It's rough 'em up.
I also thought basilisks were dragons, not giant snakes.
It depends on the lore.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends
And
on what you're
also,
looking at.
who cares? It's
Well,
a
and another thing
CGI
that's
nonsense.
not CGI is the giant vault that opens with the snakes that actually pull back individually. That all works. That's
Ooh.
actually a
Okay.
functioning piece of set.
That's cool.
That is cool.
We've all had that.
Well, and
Yeah, my snake retracts all the time.
and anyway,
My
I don't know if that's where you were going with
my
that, but,
fourth
like-
grade diary that said all the name of the girls I liked and the planets. That had snakes that opened.
well, anyway, Harry finds Tom Riddle's diary, and Tom Riddle's diary shows not a fake memory, but a memory that implies Hagrid was the one who opened the chamber 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So Malfoy and Lucius Malfoy and some representatives of the Ministry of Magic come to take him to Azkaban in view of Harry under the invisibility cloak. And then he thinks he solved it by trying to find those giant spiders. Well, not giant spiders. All the spiders that are going out into the dark forest or whatever. And
What
Yeah.
was the big spider's name?
Aragog.
you know,
Aragog.
I was this years old when I learned this. Do you know who voices Aragog?
Jesus.
Yes, Jesus, indeed. Jesus
amazing.
has come back from the dead once
I met
again.
him in Charleston once.
Jesus?
Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
just walks around the beach.
Oh, yeah. There you go. I've heard about Beach Jesus.
I met Mel
pretty cool.
Gibson. He called me Sugar Tits. Is that the same?
Yes.
It's the guy who was William Donovan in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah,
he's
he's
using the "What's happening to me" voice to do Aragog.
So, I mean, we did Wild Wild West a million years ago. The producer must have said, you know what's scary? Spiders. Or the same guy. Who's the...
I don't think John Peters
Who's the
produced this
guy
movie.
Who invented Legend of Zelda. It's the Miyamoto thing. Like, you know what's the scariest things that's ever been? Mushrooms and spiders.
Spiders are awful. I hate spiders. I don't like spiders. There's a spider, and I feel so bad because spiders are good.
Well,
and
that's
there's one
awkward because there's
living-
one on the top of your head.
That's not funny because there's one living right underneath the little button for our garage door, and I don't want to disturb him because he's got like a whole bunch of little gnats in there, and he's like super happy, but my finger like brushes either him or his web every time I push the button down, and I'm just like,
Nope.
could you find a new home, buddy? Like, I'm really glad you're happy, but could you not be right by my door,
So,
please?
I'm always honest about science with my daughter, and she didn't like spiders like you.
I don't kill spiders. I kill roaches, but I
Good.
don't like spiders.
And I told her, you know, she goes, I don't like spiders. They're scary and they're weird. I'm like, but they kill bugs, and you don't like bugs. They're good for our ecosystem. And she goes, okay, spider, go away. I like you, but not here.
I feel that way about
Yes.
so many people. I mean, spiders.
And that's why I'm required to stay at least 10 feet away from you at all times.
I'm surprised I'm this close to you right now.
So it's later on in the Harry Potter series, but it has
There's
to do with
goings
Aragog.
on.
It's later on in the Harry Potter series, but it has to do with Aragog, and Daniel Radcliffe plays this part where he says, "and the pincers," and he like does this weird thing with his hands. And I was at my in-laws a couple weeks ago, and there was this little spider, and his pincer, he was black and his pincers were white, and I could see them moving, and I'm like, oh god, no, you're right, here, just take the chair. And he couldn't have been more than a centimeter and a half big. Like, this is, he's not going to do me any harm, but I'm just like, you are freaking me out, buddy. Like, could you just, I'm just going to go.
So, to make a long story short, there's a giant spider in this movie
and his big giant family.
They assume he's the demon in the creature in the Chamber of Secrets, but he's not.
No.
He still tries to kill Ron and Harry, though. Also, by this point...
well, he lets his family try to kill him. He doesn't actually do it.
Well, also by this point, Hermione's been paralyzed because she looked at the basilisk's eyes in a mirror.
Right.
Which, again, the basilisk is just going to petrify people, but it doesn't actually kill them once they're petrified, which makes no sense.
And at one point, they blame it on paralyzing mudbloods or whatever.
Well, it says...
they say that all the mudbloods are going to die.
I feel...
It says the Chamber of Secrets has been...
weird saying mudblood?
Yes.
I feel dirty.
It says the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air beware. And so when you think of what Salazar Slytherin stood for, that he only wanted purebloods, that's what it's meant to understand.
Now, Voldemort, who again is the main villain in this, he was Muggle-born too, wasn't he?
He was half.
Right.
Okay.
He's half. He's a half-blood.
I was kind of just wondering
Fun
how
fact,
that worked out.
so is Umbridge.
Oh, well.
Fun fact.
Fuck Umbridge, but...
We've all been there.
She ends up getting raped by centaurs. It's a lot of fun, but anyway...
It's true.
I don't really know if that's the word I would use, no matter who we're talking about.
Rape or...
Fun? Rape? I don't know if that's really where I was. I don't think
well,
I would
he's
use
running
those
for senator
sentences.
from South Carolina, so...
Yes, indeed.
Oh, well, that explains it.
No.
I'm not a big city rapist.
Dun da da da! Here comes the magic card to the rescue!
Yep.
Which I love.
Yes.
By the way.
Oh,
he's like, I want nothing to do with you, but I'm not going to let you die.
Right.
I hate nonsense MacGuffin plot points, but they play this up like the cartoon it deserves to be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of... It works because at a certain point, the director or producer was just like, this is cartoon. What do you want?
And to your point of, do you just have to practice or do this or whatever? Yes, you do. Because in this movie, when they're in the car and they're leaving, Harry Potter uses the spell Aranya Exime, and it works with the spiders. When Lockhart uses that spell against the snake, when Harry and Malfoy are dueling, it doesn't work because he's a fuckwit.
Right.
It's true.
That's a good point, Kelly. Thank you.
It has to do with your natural ability, B, how you practice, and C, how you say it, the wand movement, all that stuff. So,
and then I guess D is the confidence because Hermione is not just good, but it's also, I don't want to say ego, but it's like there's something about the way she says it, because eventually it's the first movie, of course, but they say it's Leviosa, but it's also when other people
it's
emulate
Leviosa.
Right, but when other people emulate her, it doesn't work. So it's almost as though the force, it flows through you, right? Like
it's true. Well, a confidence has a lot to do with it, too. Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself, which is why Neville has such a hard time.
Which I wish they said at a certain point. Like, that's the kind of thing that Dumbledore, who's an impish god character, just puts his hand on anyone's shoulder and just says, you have to believe what you say.
Have we mentioned Fox yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
He's got a pet phoenix named Fox, which
Fox
I think
got a heart.
The Atlanta mascot.
Fox is awesome.
Yes.
I think it's weird for an Englishman to name a pet Fox, but what do I know?
I mean,
well,
FAWKES.
first of all, his nickname should have been Guy.
Well, and I mean, it's super appropriate, though, because they catch fire. But anyway.
Guy Fawkes never caught fire. He was hung and tortured.
Yeah, but the plot was...
but he was going to blow up.
I know. He was going to use gunpowder to blow up the
I've
Parliament.
read the Alan Moore story.
Gunpowder is like fire. It ignites. That's what it does. And Fox
you know what it
ignites
does?
because he's a phoenix. Do you get it yet?
Please go on, Kelly.
So American.
And if it fails, you know what happens? Once a generation, they try it again.
Yep. Well,
Like-
I mean,
Well, and the whole
Like
whole
Marx.
rumor with Fox in Fantastic Beasts is just
frankly, I'm glad Guy Fawkes failed because had he succeeded, all the Catholics in England would have been killed. But
is it so? The Phoenix has its own song, but apparently also sounds like a rooster. I know the basilisk didn't like his screeching. right? And then he clawed his eyes out.
Dude, I remember the song. I'm the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill of the fight.
Yep.
No, I mean, Fox is interesting because, which something they should have reminded of is at this point, isn't Harry Potter's wand have a phoenix feather?
It does, and
Yes,
it's from
it's
Fox.
Fox's feather.
They should have mentioned. You know, it would have been convenient if they reminded of us, because I saw the movies back to back. It would have been helpful for people who saw them a year apart.
Well, I think even in the books they hadn't confirmed that yet. That didn't come until a little later.
Much later.
Well, right, but a phoenix feather we knew from the first movie.
Yes, in his wand.
Now,
And Voldemort's also had a phoenix
The
feather.
same phoenix
From the
Fox.
same
now you're
Phoenix,
supposed
yeah.
to do this thing, Nick, where you take two, you take another two, and then you put them together to make four.
And we don't find out about that actually until fourth, because they connected, right?
I don't remember
wanna
that
see
fact.
The wall. I want to see the wall where there's like a bunch of pins and a bunch of note cards, and she's trying to make things happen.
And she's got like the cocaine just right under her nose.
That's right.
So this isn't the same, but it made me think, just because we were talking about wands, at the Warner Brothers studio tour, at the end of it, you pass through Ollivander's shop, and there are all these boxes, wand boxes on the wall with nameplates. It's every single actor, every single crew member, every single production team member, like everyone's name is on it. And the really cool thing is that the main stars aren't like off by themselves. Everybody's interspersed and they're all presented equally. And it's just really neat.
Okay,
That
so
is
Kelly,
neat.
I'll ask you, what is your wand's magical MacGuffin?
I have a unicorn hair wand. In
Okay.
every quiz I've ever taken, I have a unicorn hair wand.
Me too.
Tegan?
Same.
Really?
I've never taken a magical wand quiz, so I have no idea.
And mine's 10.5 inches.
Girl? And what does it look like?
Are you trying to
Is it
launch an
curved?
OnlyFans?
It does curve a little bit. I actually took, so I started a bullet journal a couple years ago, and
I
Pottermore
started one
shows
in
you.
January 2019. You know what? Or 2020. You know what happened? It stopped in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't finish. Mine's just like empty. I bought like a whole new one. I actually had 2 this year, and I haven't filled out either one of them. But Pottermore shows you a picture of your wand, so I actually sketched it. So it's 10.5 inches, and it kind of goes like this. It's not curved as much as Bellatrix's wand, but it's a similar shape.
I've got a sonic screwdriver. That's what I've got.
You know what? It'd be an interesting wand. Tegan, what do you got?
She's got the unicorn
I have
hair.
the unicorn hair, and it usually comes up as birchwood,
Nice.
don't
which
remember
I don't
what
know
wood
what that
mine is.
means. Yeah.
I mean, mine's 9 inches and it curves to the left. I
Yeah,
imagine
it-
inside.
I dated a guy one time who's curved all the way down at like almost a 90-degree angle.
Oh
It's kinda
dear,
weird.
that's unfortunate.
It looked like Gonzo.
Wasn't the G spot? It was the H spot. It
it
didn't hit anything.
was really weird, I'll tell you that much. But there were a couple of positions that were just kind of
It was
magical.
really
'cause, like,
good.
Mine has
Yeah.
a troll hair in the middle. You know the ones that have the
oh
diamond in
God,
the hair.
okay, so and then
There's no
So
magic.
then
It's
next-
just awkward for everyone involved. So it turns out the Chamber of Secrets is where people get hazed, and then no one wants to talk about it.
Well, we eventually get to the Chamber of Secrets. It's in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. This
Well,
is
and I think Salazar Slytherin designed it as a place that only purebloods could go. Was
only
that right?
his heirs could go.
His
So
heirs could
only
go.
anyone that's a parcel mouth. And he
That's why
as
it's in
far
the
as
girls'
we know,
bathroom, I
he-
guess.
Yeah, so as far as we know, he and his heirs are the only ones that could get in.
Oh, okay.
And so he just watched girls in the bathroom. He's like, "This is
Well,
Well,
this-
this is in the girls' bathroom, but I wonder if maybe that's not what it was.
This was
at
1,000
first.
years
Also-
ago.
Yeah, exactly. It was 1,000 years ago. Oh, and I want to know, when did they install plumbing?
good question.
Because like it's
Well,
older than
because-
plumbing.
By the way, we've all been to the bathroom before. What if you could just magic disappear it?
Which is apparently, according to J.K. Rowling, what they used to do before plumbing.
Okay, cool. Also, those pipes are huge. Like a basilisk?
Yeah,
And they're
I
going
thought
through
that too.
pipes?
I'm like, what?
So in the
And it's all over the school.
It's all over the school. So it has to be going through the plumbing pipe. So like can it change its size? Or are they really just massive, like 4-foot wide pipes that they
Some guy
installed
from
through the
Brooklyn
whole
is just like,
school?
you know, this could use some tubes, you know. Just some guy installing, some muggle installing pipes. So what do you guys do here, you know? You're like some sort of like plumbers or something?
Yeah, and you've got who is the headmaster before Dumbledore? Professor Dippet is going. Yeah, but those pipes need to be 4 inches in diameter, but don't tell anybody why.
You ever
And then they
take
wipe
a
his
shit
memory,
so
right?
big that you need like a 4-inch pipe or something? You
I've
know
taken
what?
one that needs a
Ladies,
4-foot
you can
pipe.
flush your tampons down this nonsense because it's 4 inches. It's not going to clog shit.
Well,
But it
ever.
explains why Moaning Myrtle can just sit in the U-bend. Like, do ghosts change their sizes? Apparently not.
Man, this is clogged
But
as hell.
that's what
Some Drano like knocks out. How does Moaning Myrtle deal with Drano? We've all been there.
Well, she says in the books, she's like, yeah, every once in a while someone will come along and flush me out into the lake. Into the lake? That's where it's going.
The same
The
lake
Loch
that they were all on
Ness.
boats. For,
Yes!
Oh, good lord.
So horrible.
There's like
You're a wizard, Harry,
You know,
and
you're
also
reading-
it smells like chilly night in here.
Some sort of
you're like,
magical
you're reading
filtration
this, you're reading
system.
this book sometimes, and you're like, God, J.K. Rowling is so creative. She doesn't know shit about plumbing, you guys. Like, it just
She
goes
doesn't
out
know
into
shit
the lake.
about shit, literally. At
Goes
this
out
point.
into the lake where they goes to swim for the Tri-Wizard tournament. Like, gross. There are mer people in that lake and a giant squid. Like, is that what the squid feeds on? So he doesn't have to eat the mer people?
Can
Like,
you
Yes.
this is
Maybe.
nasty.
Can you imagine
No.
being a mer person? You're just like, it's like vaping in a latrine.
I mean, flushing your shit into their lake. In mer person culture, that's considered a dick move.
That's rude.
By the way, we end with this movie being in a Catholic church and you have a chamber of secrets.
Okay, well, that's
The
just-
confessional
that's-
booth. No.
That's right.
Well, Harry defeats the basilisk because Fawkes comes in with the sorting hat, and the sorting hat's got a Gryffindor sword in it, and he uses that to kill the basilisk. And also, Tom Riddle's trying to come back to life via Ginny,
Yes.
and he fails because Harry uses the basilisk tooth to stab the journal, and then it bleeds ink, and then Tom Riddle fades away.
Yep.
And that's the climax of the movie right there.
Well, the only thing I will add is my favorite character, Gilderoy Lockhart, in this.
Yeah, we skipped over that.
We did.
Well, I mean, not only is he the professor who's self-absorbed, he teaches the kids how to duel, which becomes important later.
Yeah.
And he announces that he's not good at magic other than memory charms. And so what he's been doing the whole time is stealing other people's memories to make his stories great. And so he meets heroes, steals their tales, which is such an interesting character.
Yeah.
And it turns out that despite all this nonsense, the great magicians we've been introduced to, like Dumbledore and McGonagall, also buy his nonsense.
Well, because you have to think about it. Like, these wizards that he's hearing about on his travels, his stories he's taking, they can't possibly be the only people whose memories he's modifying. He's got to be doing full-on towns.
He's
Yeah.
got to be
Yeah.
going to the board of trustees and doing the... And that's an interesting idea. And that's why I like his character. Because also, Kenneth Branagh is eating every inch of this. He like, dude, he steals this show.
Yeah, he's-
Well,
Great.
he mentions in the book, like when Harry and Ron confront him about what a fraud he is, he's like, this is hard work. Like, I have to track these people down and do all these memory charms and, write down everything that they say and who they've talked to and where they lived, like,
Yeah.
So he's like giving himself so much credit for how much work he's put into all this.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other character that's new here is Dobby, and Dobby gets sock, and
Oh yeah, that's right. There's
it's
that ending.
CGI nonsense.
Right. So Dobby
But I love
is
that scene.
Dobby's a house elf that
Yes.
works for the Malfoys, and a house elf is enslaved for their entire life and their subsequent generations' lives. And if you want to tweet me your questions about the laws of house elves mating, I would love to hear your thoughts because I've had
When
Wait.
the house elf loves a
Well-
house elf.
because they're slaves, right? So who keeps
Okay,
the
something I
offspring? So
hated
there's a
about
whole lot
this-
of questions, but it's at Lady Copsy on Twitter, so you can just let me know. But anyways, so
Do you
I
watch house elf
hated it.
porn?
they're gross. What is wrong
Gross.
with you?
You were talking about house elves
So-
reproducing.
I
They're-
hated his character for two reasons. He's supposed to be obedient, right? Why is the whole movie happen?
Because house elves are stronger than wizards. They have their own types of powers, and they can disobey.
Well, then how did
the-
they become enslaved?
They just have to punish themselves.
They have to punish
if
themselves,
they disobey.
and so that's kind of an engraved thing in them. But they are slaves. They do have to follow the rules, but they do have a very, very powerful magic, which is how Dobby is able to accomplish all of these things.
Well, I get it. That's why white people interpret slavery. But the thing is, I would love to see him punish himself in any way.
He did
Well,
in the
He
Dursleys'
does.
house.
He does a lot, actually.
Well, okay.
In the books, he does a
He does
lot.
much more
so
in the
when he
book.
shows up in the books, his hands are bandaged because he had to shut them in the warm oven door type of thing. So
Yeah.
or iron his hands. They talk about that.
Yeah.
Um,
and
so
he's
it's-
constantly beating his head against the wall
The
and
other
throwing
question I
things on
have-
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
is how does he know about Harry Potter?
Everybody knows about Harry
Potter.
Well, and it was a huge thing. It's a huge thing in House Elf history because things were apparently far worse for the indentured servants or whatever of the wizarding world before Harry Potter. So when Lord Voldemort was still in power,
He's a child.
But a lot of things changed because
Yeah.
of the
The child
type
died.
of people.
When
Because of the type
Voldemort
of people
went into
that were
hiding.
involved with Voldemort. So a lot changed after that for House Elf rights and Goblin
In a
rights and all
decade.
that. And so you get more of that in the books.
yeah,
And he does the reason he knows is because Lucius Malfoy is the one that finds the Tom Riddle's diary in his stuff. He's the one that wants to get rid of it. There are raids going on from the Ministry of Magic, so he has to get rid of incriminating evidence.
Well,
And they don't
no, I
talk
get
about
it.
that in the movies, but
Yeah.
that's
'Cause,
why
I mean-
he's offloading all of this stuff that could incriminate him. So because Voldemort's literal soul is in this, and we haven't been introduced to the word Horcrux yet, but it's the first one that he, or
Right.
one of the first ones that he creates.
a part of his soul.
Right. So part of his soul is in this. So it is a very, very dark piece of magic that could be construed as a Muggle artifact because it is a diary. So he's trying to get rid of all this stuff. He's selling stuff to Borgin and Burkes, which is where Harry comes out when he ends up in Nocturne Alley using the flu powder and all these little extra details that you don't get.
But that's the problem. Like, I get it that Lucius finds Mein Kampf and like Dobby is a slave. But all that stuff seems in this movie to be a rail shooter. Like, it just happens and happens and happens.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Dobby's a plot device.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, like, there's no agency to anyone. Like, I would love it if, even at the end, Lucius wants to strangle Harry Potter. You can see it in his eyes. I would almost want him to have, like, force magic to throw him up, and Dumbledore takes him back down. But there's nothing. There's nothing that matters.
Nobody-
And you know what he puts?
Not
He
yet.
uses a sock as a bookmark, and that's the end of the episode!
Nobody cares that Lucius Malfoy tries to kill a kid.
Or
Yeah.
is a professor arrested?
Well, and the other thing that the movies leave out is that not only did he get Hagrid arrested, but he threatened basically the entire school council and removed Dumbledore.
Well, no, they
Yeah.
mentioned it in the movie.
Dumbledore needs to have one emotion in the entire movie.
They do mention that plot
that's
point in the
why-
movie. Dumbledore's like, when I spoke to the rest of the council, they
Oh, okay, so-
indicated
yeah,
that you had persuaded them
yeah.
and then
to your
They
side.
somehow were under the influence
That
or
you were
under
dis-
the opinion that
you
you
were-
would kill their family or threaten
Yeah.
their family or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
we need Dumbledore or Lucius to have any motivation, because both of them are good actors, man. Give them something.
You know, I just
Yeah.
realized who Dumbledore is secretly. Michael, get your ass out of there.
I was gonna say he almost feels like an R. Crumb character. Like, it's American
He's
Splendor.
Mr. Natural, you mean?
Right? Like, no agency, just walks.
Harry Potter, I'm going to give you this headless woman for you to do whatever you like.
Kinda.
So anyway, Harry frees Dobby,
And we're at the end of the movie.
and then Lucius tries to kill Harry, and Dobby sends him flying, which is what Nick wanted.
Yeah. And I love that.
I like that too. Movie's
Dobby
over.
is free.
Kelly, wrap us up.
Well, I feel like this movie holds up. I do feel like the visual effects were better here. So that's me.
I'll jump in. This time I don't think it's as bad as I thought it was. I will say, tragically for me, this feels like another Scooby-Doo episode where it's the same movie, it's just different characters involved. But Gilderoy Lockhart steals my heart every time, because he's some academics I know where he's just like, I'm gonna sign things. I have 30 interns working for me. I'm a good-looking dude.
Yeah, we didn't actually talk about what happens to Gilderoy Lockhart because
he deserves it.
He steals Sean, or he
Sean's.
steals Ron's wand. There's just a lot of S's in that
One's
sentence.
broken,
It really threw me off.
which we haven't even gotten.
Yeah.
From the
So-
Whomping Willow when
Yeah.
you crash into
So
that.
it backfires, and he loses his memory. And because we don't see him anymore in the movies, I love that they do in the books run into him at St. Mungo's, which is the wizarding hospital. And he doesn't remember who he is, but all he wants to do is sign stuff. And I just love that continues to be his character arc, that he just wants to sign his name and that he eventually relearns looped letters, as he calls it. And I just think that's phenomenal.
Well, and the best part about the whole gag is you have an embarrassed school. Who do you hire? The celebrity. Like,
Yeah.
it's perfect. It makes perfect sense. Like, and it's
Oh, wait, what? People just hire celebrities to look better? Like, I don't know if it's just schools.
and I mean, what's the game? The game is you hide your shame. And, like, eventually they
And
address
it
it
makes
more.
it worse.
I mean, they address it
America.
better. I will always forgive the second of almost anything because, like, you're a band and you worked for 10 years to make your first album. What's the second album? Garbage because you had to put it out in a year. And that's what this feels like. You know, that first one worked. Let's make it work with accent marks. I will say though, the additions make it solid. It's one I skip because it's too long for the same first movie.
The kids are a lot better acting wise in this movie than they are in the first one.
Yeah.
Like
and
a
Ron's
lot.
voice dropped. Ron's voice dropped a lot
I mean,
in this one.
Yeah, he goes through some
balls
major
and voices.
puberty.
Tegan?
I liked it. I didn't like it as much as the first or any of the others. I didn't like a lot of the stuff that they left out from the books, and I feel like if they'd put more things in from the books and not created so many things on their own, that it could have been a little bit better and made more sense.
Thank you, guys. Kelly, what's next week?
So the next week is going to be The Prisoner of Azkaban, which is the third Harry Potter book where we are introduced to some of Harry's parents' best friends.
And I haven't rewatched it yet. I remember the first two are kids' movies, and after that, it gets older and
This
older.
gets very
and
dark.
Much
This
older.
this one gets very, very dark, and I'm interested to see what we all have to say about it as adults, because I will say I see it very much differently now than I did even 2 years ago.
I saw this when it opened up at midnight. I was in Houston for whatever reason, but I still saw this movie. And I'll just say there's a reason Alfonso Cuarón has 2 Oscars now and Chris Columbus has nothing.
The first two feel the samey to me. Everyone after this
It's
gets
its own.
different and darker and different
Yep.
and darker. And that doesn't
Yep.
mean I like them all. But like the third one especially, it's almost Tim Burton dark nonsense panning across worlds. Like when the shot I remember is them panning to Azkaban, and it's dark across an ocean that's darker. And Kelly at one point very kindly for I think a birthday gift gave me a signature from Cecil Baldwin. It feels very Night Vale. Like that's what that feels.
Yeah.
Dripping, dark, hopeless.
Yeah.
All
hopeless.
hail the Dementor.
All hail the
All
Dementor.
hail.
And with that, thanks.
Myopia Movies is a production of Dude Letter Podcasting. It is hosted by Nick Hoffman, edited by Nick Hoffman and Daniel Sudis. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod. Find his music on Comtech.com. It is registered under the Creative 4 license. Our regular panelists are Matthew Quinn, Daniel Sudis, Nick Hoffman, and Jeremy Ryber. Thanks for listening. Please support our Patreon at patreon.com/myopia. Thanks, guys.